Okay, hey, I wanted to be with you guys tonight. Unfortunately, I had a medical procedure today, and so by the time you're seeing this, hopefully I'll be home and groggy. Believe me, I'd much rather be with you guys than going through what I went through. Well, I'm recording this in advance, but it will have been this morning. I wanted to have a chance to just address you a little bit about some specific items, and then I'll turn it over to Steve to handle the rest of the meeting. Hopefully by now you've already reviewed the minutes of the last meeting. Let's just talk a little bit about item number 2 on the agenda, and that's the update on the webinars. The response of the students has been very good. We've had a great response from just about every student who's watched it. We've expanded the webinars from real property and legal research to include civil litigation and criminal law, and we're even considering expanding it to some other classes as well. We also make some of the recordings available to students who missed a class or had a medical appointment or something like that, so it helps keep the students current in what's going on. But perhaps most importantly, as you may have already heard, due to our budget cuts and other issues, and low enrollment, we are facing some, this is low enrollment across all community colleges. We are facing some pretty dire financial situations. So by expanding the webinars, we are hopefully reaching a much greater student base. I mean, right now, I have a student in Kentucky. We have some of them in Fayetteville. We have them in Taylorsville. We have them in Hickory. We have a lot of webinar students who are sort of scattered around, and every email or phone call that I get about interest about the program is asking about the webinars and asking about online features. So that part of it seems to be going really well. In the future, probably what's going to happen is we will probably expand the webinar format maybe to another couple of classes, but we'll probably always keep the core real property and legal research classes in order to accommodate ABA requirements and to bring us in compliance with North Carolina Paralegal Association requirements as well. I'll talk about that in just a second. Item number 3 talks about enrollment and division department update. Our enrollment figures are around 70 students right now, which is not bad. It's not as great as it was a few years ago when we were in the 100-plus range, but still, overall, considering the fact that we are a 2-person program, I think we are the second largest program on campus, which is not bad. However, that doesn't mean we're resting on our laurels. I'm actively marketing the program through Facebook and some other social media, as well as trying to expand knowledge of the program through the newsletter. Now, hopefully all of you have gotten copies of the monthly newsletter that I've been putting out now for almost 2 years now. And I put out an edition every month where I profile a student or a profile an advisory board member. And so some of you may be pestered by me later because I like to include articles about the advisory board people so that the students will know, who you are and what you do, and then you can know something about the students. I've also expanded the newsletter to include employers, law firms, clerks of court. Right now, I think there's 125 names on the email, and I'm always looking to expand the newsletter to other people as well, so they can know more about the program, and also as a way, frankly, of getting more interest in the program for potential students. So we're always looking at that. Okay, under item number 4, the paralegal president should be with you tonight, so I'm sure she can fill you in on any developments in the Paralegal Association, so I'll just skip over that part. As you probably saw in the newsletter, we sent out a special edition, the Paralegal Elections newsletter, that actually had a profile of all the people running for the various offices and included a ballot so that they could vote on the elections. So rather than just talk about the Paralegal Association, I'll allow Ashley, if she's here tonight, to talk about that. One thing you do need to know, though, is 2 years ago, the Western Piedmont Paralegal students won the top 3 honors at the North Carolina Paralegal Association essay contest. Last year, we won 2 out of the 3 honors. So I'm putting up the pressure again this year. In January, they're going to have a brand new essay contest, and I'm going to urge the students again and see if we can do it again. So as you know, 2 years ago, I believe we were the only school in history that actually won all 3 spots. And then last year we did it again with 2 out of the 3. I think we had the first place and the third place, and somebody in second place from some other school. Who cares? Item number 5 is I'm going to be attending the AFPE conference. Try to go to the national conferences every year now. However, it's extremely difficult to do any travel this year with our budget restrictions. I'll be talking more about budget restrictions here under item number 6, but I had to get a mini grant basically to allow me to go because otherwise travel just wasn't going to be able to do it. Our budget has been slashed in just about every possible category. But I will be able to attend this year's national conference and again try to keep Western Piedmont active not only on the local and state but also on the national level. I do participate a lot, and because I'm an author, I get invited to a lot of different functions where I try to mention Western Piedmont as much as I possibly can. Under item number 6, you see a whole category just dealing with budget restrictions. Well, we got a ton of them. They announced when we came back this year that we were facing some really radical budget restrictions, budget cuts, and what the Paralegal Association ended up having to, in the Paralegal Department ended up having to do was we had to switch our teaching loads around. Traditionally, me, the paralegal the coordinator, well, traditionally, although I've never actually had it, got a course reduction of one course just to take care of all of the paperwork that's involved in the coordinator position. And if I'd known how much Leslie did before, I really would have appreciated her more because now that I'm the coordinator, there's a lot of paperwork. However, not only have I never gotten that, I haven't gotten that since we've been here, just because the budget has never worked out for it. But now, not only do I not get the course reduction, both Steve and I are actually teaching more than our 18-hour, supposed to be our max. And we're going to be doing that in the spring as well. We're going to be bumping it up to 20 hours apiece between us because our adjunct instructor budget has also been cut. So this year we're teaching a higher load for our courses, and I think we're teaching 6 courses between us altogether. And we're looking at the same situation again in the spring. They've told us we may even be facing additional budget cuts in the spring. We're cut pretty close to the bone right now. I'm not sure what else they can cut, but they may come up with something. I don't know what it is. That also applies to the adjunct instructor budget. So we have cut back on the classes that we are having adjuncts teach, which is unfortunate because we were trying to beef up the adjunct instructor position. One of the things I'm trying to do, and I just wanted to let you guys know, is that Steve Leon, who's been with us for 10 years, he has plans on retiring in a couple of years, and I certainly don't blame him, although I really wish he'd stay. So I have to start thinking long term about who's going to be replacing his position, and I'm hoping that by hiring various adjuncts and see how they work, that I can possibly line up somebody that I think might be able to roll into that position in a couple of years. And I would certainly welcome any advice that you have, any of you have about filling that position, or somebody you might think that would be a good adjunct instructor who might eventually gravitate into that full-time position. It's a great job. I love working here. I think Steve does too. But Steve wants to retire, and I certainly don't blame him. As a result, I've got to start thinking about somebody else. And so if you have any suggestions about that, please let me know. As you'll see in the next item, our Paula, who's been with us for 14 years, I think, her position was cut as well. Paula Barnes was the distance education coordinator. I think that's what she was, but essentially she was my right hand and Danny Dixon's right hand in criminal justice. Her position was eliminated, along with a slew of other people here on campus who lost their jobs. A lot of the computer techs, a lot of the part-time people, well, we lost all of them. So as you can see, this is a pretty radical budget situation we're dealing with, which means, of course, that not only do Steve and I have a greater teaching load, but we don't even have the same level of administrative help that we had before. So we're facing more hours, more classes, and we have less help. But that's just something we have to deal with. We're just going to have to find a way to work through it. The upshot of all this is to tell you the situation with the ABA. You'll notice I didn't even put it on the agenda. We have been working towards getting the program ready for submission to the ABA for approval. However, given the budget situation, I contacted the dean, I contacted the department head, and sent through a memo just sort of laying out the cost involved in seeking ABA approval. And frankly, it's just too expensive right now. Given the radical budget cuts we're facing right now, there is no way we can afford it. And most importantly, there is a mammoth report that must be prepared that, given the teaching load and what we have, we're just not going to be able to pull it together, especially now that we don't even have our assistant. So what I suggested, and the dean approved, was to put off all ABA approval push for probably at least a year until maybe things lighten up a little bit, until maybe we get another administrative assistant back in that position, or a course reduction or something. The people that I've spoken to here in North Carolina who've gotten ABA approval say it takes a good solid year to really put together the report and all the materials that you need in order to satisfy ABA approval. So that leads us to item number 7. In order to make sure that we're still in compliance with ABA guidelines, because the NCPA also follows those guidelines, the webinars continue to be our way to satisfy the 10 minimum hours face-to-face component. And so as you can see, I'm even using it now to address you at an advisory board meeting simply because I can't be with you. But we're using online media more and more and more all the time in order to make a better connection with students. And the students really seem to be responding to it very well. It also keeps us in compliance with the NCPA and the ABA, so that if and when we get to the point where we seek ABA approval, we'll have a long-standing record of showing our compliance with all of the basic guidelines that the ABA has put out. That takes us through item number 7 on the agenda that I have here. I'm probably going to turn it over to Steve at this point just for an open session to see if you have any questions or review, suggestions, advice, etc. As you know, we're facing a pretty tough road ahead here, probably for the next year or so. But I'm pretty optimistic. The program is doing extremely well. We've got we've got great job placement. Even though we haven't created an official program for it, we've got most of our students are getting jobs here, there, and everywhere. And so overall, given the fact that we're facing a dire budget situation, I think we're in fairly decent shape. There, of course, is room for improvement, as there always is, and budgetary-wise, we certainly hope there'll be some improvement. The outlook, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics for paralegals, is still very good for paralegals, so that's not going to be an issue. Our enrollment is down slightly, but that's not unexpected because all program enrollment are down across the board. As you know, a lot of times the economy is kind of a reverse barometer for enrollment. A few years ago, our enrollment was through the roof. It was the biggest enrollment we'd ever had, but that was true of everybody's program, because the economy was doing so poorly. A lot of people came back to school. Now that the economy is doing better, well, enrollment is down everywhere. We're probably going to continue to expand the webinars into a few other classes just to continue to reach students. Steve, and I hope he'll do this for you, will describe how he's kind of been doing some really innovative work with the webinars by turning some of the presentation over to the students to allow them greater interaction. And to tell you the truth, I liked it so much I adopted it in my own classes as well. And maybe he can take you through that or give you a demonstration of that. We're going to continue to focus on digital media, on online, on social networking, because frankly, love it, hate it, whatever, it is the wave of the future. I am insisting that the students do more things online to increase their overall skills, but in the ultimate analysis, I'm also going back to just the basics. Steve has constantly pushing the students to write better, and between the technology and just being able to do better job at legal thinking, legal reasoning, and legal writing, I think those are going to be the two most important skills that the students will have when they get out of this program. I'm also, as I've told you, going to be expanding the base of people who will receive the newsletter, because it's a very inexpensive way to promote the program across the board. Beyond that, I'll turn it over to Steve and see if you have any suggestions for us, recommendations, or other topics that you'd like for us to address. And when I get back, hopefully tomorrow, he can fill me in on how the meeting went and anything else that you brought up. And if you have any specific questions or anything that you just, you'd like to know, or suggestions you'd like to make, please feel free to call me or email me. My telephone number is 448-6044. My email is, you can find it right on the Western Piedmont home site, is nbevins@wpcc.edu. I hope you've had a good meeting, that I haven't dragged this out too long for you, and that you've had a chance to kind of interact with Steve and Ashley. And also, we always welcome your suggestions, your recommendations. That's what we need you for. We need to know what you think about the program, where the program is going, and what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. Those are things that we value your input on. So having said all that, I'll stop now and turn it over to Steve.